Nice early morning taxi to the end of the runway at Longview. Well, good morning, everybody. Longview, Texas. Nice, well, it's 7:25 now. We were in Tweety Bird, ready to go at 7 o'clock as planned. Beautiful, beautiful morning. And unfortunately, for some reason, she wouldn't produce takeoff power. She's only coming up to about 2,000 RPM. So we're getting ready to pull the cows, double check the linkages, see if there's anything we can find. Let's hope it's something easy. First, I wanted to eliminate the easy things. Make sure we were getting full throw on the throttle linkage. We were. Next, all right, suspecting possibly a stuck valve. So I'm checking the temperatures of these cylinders. This is cylinder number 4. Feeling the exhaust and the valve cover, and it's a little bit cool. Number 4, the front left, was the coolest. Number 2, the back left, was a little bit warmer. Number 1 and 3 on the right hand side, they were nice and warm. So suspected something over on the left hand side, really thinking maybe stuck valve on number 4. Troubleshoot it, and we're gonna run some MMO through it, get it warmed up again, let it soak, see if we can't clear that up, clear that the easy way. Doesn't mean the problem's fixed permanently, but it'll hopefully get us where we can get the airplane there on schedule. Keep your fingers crossed. Well, we consulted with several mechanics before we came to an initial course of action. That easiest thing we were going to try to do was soak those valves in, with some MMO in both the fuel and the oil, run the engine, let them soak, sit for about an hour, and then go out and see if it was going to clear it up. It's by no means a sure bet, but it is the easiest way that might get those cleared up. So while I was sitting in the FBO waiting out time, though, a guy walks in, he goes, "Hey, I know you." And I'm like, uh-oh, because I don't know you. Gentleman by the name of Raul Diaz pulled in. He watches me on YouTube, so thank you very much for that. He is learning to fly there in Longview, and so we had a great time getting to know each other. Took him out, showed him the airplane, talked about his flight training, and it was great to always meet new friends. And thanks for people who watch. Never hesitate to reach out and say hello. Let it set for an hour. We went out, we fired it up, we ran it up as high a power setting as we could. Unfortunately, the valve did not clear. Treating the engine with some MMO, running it, letting it soak through, and no change. So we are now officially in the coordinating for maintenance phase. pull some plugs, get a bore scope in there, take a look at stuff, and then figure out what we need to do to that valve, get that engine running healthy again. Always an adventure. Well, here's one of the things I just love about aviation is called around to a couple shops that were recommended. They didn't have availability to get the airplane in quickly. I had already done a little bit of work with a couple of gentlemen that have an aviation operation that operates in the hangars there at KRS. And they were already working airplanes that day. But Josiah's like, let's go do a little bit of quick troubleshooting. He loaned me some tools real quick, let me pull some valve covers, and we found what we thought was definitely a sticky valve on number 4. And he goes, well, I can't work it right now, but I will come in on my lunch hour, or I will just walk over next door and work it on his lunch hour. And so that's what he did. So we worked it for about an hour 20 on his lunch hour, and scraped and did some less non-evasive actions on the valve on number 4 and put it back together, ran it. That didn't solve it, but what it did tell me is, hey, number 2 cylinder now was cold, and when you pulled the prop through manually, you could tell that we were lacking compression on number 2. So we then pulled the valve cover off number 2, and you'll see what we found.
So this
Full foul plugs on number 4. We're getting closer. And this is what we found when we pulled the valve cover off the number 2. Look at that exhaust valve. It is stuck all the way open, and it is stuck hard. Well, this was an East Texas classic. A bunch, as I was going down the road, there were pine needle leaves all over the road. And I couldn't figure out where they were coming from, and then I caught up to this trailer. Well, this old rotten trailer, the roof was peeling and blowing backwards off the top of it. I caught up to the guy at the stoplight, told him about it. He did not care, and he did not look much better than the trailer. Well, we found it. Number 2 had the stuck exhaust valve, though number 4 wasn't exactly healthy either. I think those plugs are so foul they may not have been firing properly, but we got her working, and now it's time for a quick little lunch before we start headed west. And it wouldn't be the same without some ribs and some good sweet tea in Texas. Waiting on some texts from friends to see where I end up tonight, but Abilene, Lubbock area is probably where it's going to be. HH-60 came in, Texas Air National Guard. It was great to talk to the crew. I cannot believe how young these guys look, and the captain, who was the pilot in command, was the old guy at the age of 32, and he still looked like he was 22. Cool Honda Jet sitting there. There's the Cub. She's ready to go now. Just got to figure out what the plan is. The plan is not to sit in these chairs. While they may look cool, the hard plastic hand chairs were not at all comfortable to sit in. So, ran to grab the courtesy car, hauled butt down the road to go get a little bit of lunch in me because I hadn't eaten for 8 hours. Also grabbed a little cash to pay the mechanic. More on him, Josiah, later. Absolutely great guy. And while I was eating lunch, I was texting a buddy, Air Force buddy, going, hey, you got a spare whiskey in a bedroom tonight? And goes, sure do. And I'm looking at the times, I'm looking at the distance, and I realize it's going to be a hustle. I'm shoving the food down my throat, trying to build a mental timeline. It's like I'm going to be getting there just at sunset, which really means you're probably going to get there 20 minutes later or 30 minutes later, which means landing in the dark again. And I just looked up and I went, why am I pushing this hard? It has already been a pretty long day. Lots of communicating back and forth with the prior owner, the new owner, working with the mechanic, fixing things, you know, and it's not my airplane, it's not my bill, it's not any of that, but it is my responsibility to safely get Tweety Bird 2 from Birmingham to Palm Springs. And I just realized I was pushing too hard. There wasn't enough gain to try to go fly 1 to 2 hours just to find a new FBO, to find a new place to stay the night, or push the daylight trying to get out to see my buddy Haas. So I called him up and said, sorry buddy, but we're calling to knock it off. We're gonna just stay here tonight. And so that's the lesson for everybody out there. Sometimes when you're just pushing that hard, you just gotta go, why? There isn't a good reason. And the 2 hours of flying I might have gotten today, it's a lot easier for me to make that up with a couple extra early starts or something else. And I've still got all the time in the world to get this mission done. So I'm just right now just sitting here on the tire and absorbing some warmth of the sun and just unwinding, and gonna go get a fresh night's sleep and start again in the morning with a fresh body, fresh soul, fresh mind, and a fresh, well-running Continental 85 on Tweety Bird. So that's today's lesson. Never be afraid to say knock it off. Today we did, and I could, as soon as I said it to my buddy that, hey, I'm knocking it off, I felt better, which goes to confirm I was probably trying too hard. See you guys later. Huge thanks to Josiah Wakefield for taking the time out of his lunch and time after work to work this airplane. You can find Josh and other great services with East Texas IA Services for your general aviation and JDS Aviation for your corporate aviation needs. If you're in Longview or East Texas and need help, these are the men to call. Everybody, it is Tuesday. Beautiful morning here again, just like yesterday, except I hope it's not just like yesterday at all. Obviously we got 99 Hotel back up and running good, so should be airborne by 7:05. Sun's not quite up. Beautiful day in East Texas. Should have a slight tailwind, a few higher clouds across mid-Texas, nothing that'll affect safe flying ceilings or viz. Hoping to get out towards Clovis, New Mexico, somewhere in that area today. So come along for the ride. All right, girl, you ready to do it today? You feeling it? Howdy, everybody. All right, we are airborne headed west. One of the things I've had a couple people ask me about is how do you plan for these trips? And the short answer is I look at weather about a week out for showstoppers, i.e. big fronts passing through. Otherwise, I really don't start looking at weather until 1 to 3 days prior, trying to figure out what routes I'm going to possibly take. A lot of it, especially in an airplane like the J3, is all based on winds. But I find that just about 95% of the time I can go anywhere in the U.S. VFR safely. As far as I don't have planned, here's where I absolutely know I'm going to be stopping for fuel. I rely on 13,000 hours and 40 years of flying experience to play it by ear, though there's a lot of stuff going on in the background so it's not just totally flying by the seat of the pants, but trying to build solid plans and stick to them puts undue pressure onto people. I'm sure there's other questions more specific that you're wondering about how I go about these trips, and go down the comments, put those in there, and I will try to answer those in versions part 3, 4, and maybe 5 of this trip. So hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you soon. Merry Christmas.